You don't lose respect when others disrespect you. You lose it when you tolerate it. Let that sink in for a moment. It's a quiet, uncomfortable truth, isn't it? For years, maybe even decades, you've operated on a different assumption. You've tried explaining your side of the story, hoping they would finally understand. You've tried being nicer, softer, more accommodating, believing your kindness would eventually be reciprocated. You've even tried shrinking yourself, making yourself smaller to keep the peace, avoiding conflict at all costs. But let's be honest about where that has led. The more you tolerate, the more they test your boundaries. The more you try to please, the more invisible you become. The more you justify their behavior, the more they chip away at your dignity, piece by painful piece. And here's the harsh reality that self-help books often gloss over. Disrespect doesn't truly begin with their words or their actions. It begins with your silence. Not the powerful, intentional silence of a person in control, but the heavy, suffocating silence of fear. It's the silence of someone who has been conditioned to believe that their needs come second. The silence of someone who has slowly, tragically, forgotten that they deserve better. You are not here on this earth to beg for a seat at the table or to audition for respect. You are here to reclaim what is inherently yours. But we're not going to do it through angry confrontations or loud, exhausting arguments. That's their game, and playing it only drains your energy. We are going to do it through presence. Not through demanding words, but through quiet, unshakable boundaries. Not by trying harder to be liked, but by allowing less of what hurts you. Because the person who refuses to accept disrespect, even in complete silence, holds a profound and intimidating power that no screamer can ever match. So today, we're not just going to talk about abstract ideas. We are going on a journey through 10 specific, actionable shifts in your behavior and mindset. These aren't just theories, these are powerful psychological tools, many backed by scientific principles, designed to fundamentally change how people see you, speak to you, and treat you, without you ever having to raise your voice. By the end of this video, one thing will be crystal clear in your mind: no one will disrespect you ever again, not because they've changed, but because you will never, ever allow it. 1. The self-respect audit. So, where do we begin this journey? Not with a grand, sweeping gesture, but with something quiet, personal, and profoundly revealing. We begin with the first shift, the self-respect audit. I know the word audit sounds intimidating, like something the IRS does. But this isn't about judgment or finding fault in yourself. This is about turning on the lights in a room you've been navigating in the dark for far too long. It's about developing the conscious awareness to see the truth of your daily interactions. Because you cannot fix a leak you don't know exists. For most of us, disrespect isn't a sudden flood, it's a slow, steady drip, drip, drip of tiny compromises, ignored slights, and uncomfortable moments we tell ourselves aren't a big deal. But they are a big deal. Each one is a small withdrawal from your account of self-worth, and over time, that account becomes dangerously overdrawn. The psychology of tolerance is a subtle trap. We don't consciously decide to be disrespected. Instead, we are conditioned to prioritize harmony over our own feelings. Especially for those of us over 35, we were often raised with the belief that being a good person, a good son, a good daughter, a good employee, a good partner, meant being an agreeable one. We learned to swallow our discomfort to avoid rocking the boat. We learned that voicing a boundary might lead to conflict, and conflict might lead to disapproval or even abandonment. So, we tolerate. We tell ourselves the person didn't mean it that way. We rationalize that they're just stressed. We convince ourselves that speaking up would be selfish or dramatic. But this tolerance is a form of silent permission. It's a subconscious signal you send out to the world that says, my boundaries are negotiable. My feelings are secondary. And people, whether they realize it or not, will always push against a boundary until they hit a solid wall. If they find mush, they will keep pushing. Let's make this real. Think about the last month. Did a colleague consistently talk over you in a meeting, only to present your idea as their own 5 minutes later? Did a family member make a sharp joke at a family dinner about your career path, your weight, or your relationship status, and everyone just laughed while you felt a sting of humiliation? What about the friend who only seems to remember you exist when they need a favor, a sympathetic ear, or a last-minute babysitter? Or the partner who, in the middle of you sharing something vulnerable and important, picks up their phone and starts scrolling, giving you only half their attention? These are not small things. These are the cracks where your dignity seeps out. They are the precise moments where you teach people how much you are willing to endure. So here is your first concrete action. Not tomorrow, not later. Right now. I want you to pause this video, take out a piece of paper and a pen, or open a new note on your phone. And I want you to write down a heading, Things I Have Tolerated. Be brutally honest with yourself. Write down 3 to 5 specific examples from the last month, no matter how small they seem. Don't just write, my boss was rude. Write, during the team presentation on Tuesday, my boss interrupted me while I was speaking and told me to get to the point in front of everyone. Don't just write, my friend took me for granted. Write, I spent an hour on the phone listening to Sarah's problems last week, but when I called her yesterday needing to talk, she said she was busy and never called me back. Why is this physical act so critical? Because when these moments live only in your head, they remain vague, fleeting feelings that are easy to dismiss. But when you write them down, they become data. They become undeniable facts. You are moving them from the realm of emotion into the realm of evidence. This list isn't for showing to anyone else. It's not a list of grievances to be used in a future fight. This list is for you. It is the proof you need to finally stop gaslighting yourself. It's the foundation upon which we will build everything else. You are no longer a passive victim of circumstances, you are becoming an objective observer of your own life. And from this place of clear-eyed observation, real power begins to grow. Now that you have this list, this audit, you've identified the leaks. You can see exactly where your energy and respect are draining away. The next, most crucial step is to understand the fundamental internal conflict that allows these leaks to happen in the first place. And that brings us to our second, and perhaps most important, shift. 2. From nice to kind. Now that you have your list, your undeniable evidence, let's address the elephant in the room. It's the core conflict that paralyzes so many good-hearted people and the single biggest insight we discovered from those who have walked this path before you. It is the silent, internal war between being a nice person and being a kind person. This is shift number 2, moving from nice to kind. And please understand, these are not the same thing. In fact, they can be polar opposites. Our society, especially for our generation, has dangerously confused the two. We were taught that being nice was the pinnacle of social grace. To be nice is to be agreeable, to be pleasant, to smooth things over, to never be the source of friction. But what is the psychological root of this constant niceness? For most people, it's fear. Fear of being disliked. Fear of confrontation. Fear of being seen as difficult, selfish, or heaven forbid, not a team player. Niceness is an external performance designed to manage other people's perceptions of you. Kindness, on the other hand, is an internal state of being. It is rooted not in fear, but in strength and genuine empathy. A kind person acts with compassion and integrity. They want the best for others, but, and this is the crucial difference, they also want the best for themselves. Kindness without a boundary is not kindness at all, it is self-abandonment. And toxic people, manipulators, and even just garden-variety selfish individuals have a radar for this. They don't respect niceness, they see it as a green light. They interpret your unwillingness to cause friction as a weakness to be exploited. They know that nice person will eventually give in, will absorb the blame, will be the one to apologize just to restore a false peace. Let's bring in the science. Modern psychology, particularly research in personality traits, supports this distinction. There's a well-studied trait called agreeableness. Now, being agreeable isn't inherently bad, it relates to being cooperative and compassionate. But extensive research, including a massive meta-analysis of over 3,900 studies, has shown that excessively high agreeableness is linked to significant downsides. Highly agreeable people often have lower salaries, are less likely to be promoted into leadership roles, and report feeling taken advantage of. Why? Because they struggle to engage in the necessary, healthy conflicts of life. They avoid negotiating for a raise. They hesitate to give critical feedback. They find it excruciatingly difficult to set and enforce firm boundaries. They are, in a word, too nice for their own good. The real key to well-being and respect isn't just agreeableness, it's agreeableness balanced with a healthy dose of assertiveness. Assertiveness is the skill of expressing your feelings, needs, and boundaries clearly and respectfully. It is the engine of kindness. It is what gives your compassion a backbone. Let's look at a practical scenario. Imagine a coworker, let's call him Mark, asks you to take on a significant part of his project because he's swamped. The deadline is tight, and you already have a full plate. That nice response, you feel a knot in your stomach. You want to say no, but the fear kicks in. You think, if I say no, he'll think I'm not a team player. Maybe he'll complain to the boss. It's just easier to say yes and deal with the extra stress. So you say, with a strained smile, yeah, sure, no problem. You then spend the next 3 nights working late, fueled by caffeine and resentment, feeling exhausted and used. You have been nice, but you have been deeply unkind to yourself. The kind response, you pause. You access that core of genuine strength. You can have compassion for his stress, but you must also honor your own capacity. You say, calmly and firmly, Mark, I can see you're in a tough spot, and I wish I could help. But my plate is completely full right now, and I can't take on anything else without compromising the quality of my own work. Notice what happened. There was no apology. There was no long, defensive explanation. You acknowledged his reality, I can see you're in a tough spot, which shows empathy, but you stated your own reality with unshakable clarity. This is kindness in action. It is kind to Mark because you are not misleading him and allowing resentment to build. And most importantly, it is profoundly kind to yourself because you are protecting your time, your energy, and your dignity. Moving from nice to kind is the single most powerful shift you can make. It requires you to redefine your understanding of what it means to be a good person. A truly good, kind, and effective person does not set themselves on fire to keep others warm. They build a strong, warm fire for themselves, and then they generously share its light and heat with those who deserve it. This shift is your permission slip to stop performing and start living with integrity. It's the moment you decide that your own well-being is not a selfish luxury, but a non-negotiable prerequisite for a life of respect. 3. The 3-second rule. You have identified the behaviors you will no longer tolerate. You have made the profound internal commitment to act from a place of kindness, not just niceness. But knowledge is not enough. The gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it in a high-pressure moment can feel like a chasm. This is where we need a practical, in-the-moment tool. A circuit breaker for your old, reactive habits. This brings us to our third powerful shift, the 3-second rule. This technique is simple, profoundly effective, and rooted directly in the wiring of your brain. From this moment forward, whenever you feel triggered, provoked, or put on the spot, you will give yourself the gift of a 3-second pause before you speak or act. That's it. A slow, silent inhale. A deliberate, unhurried exhale. 3 seconds. It sounds deceptively simple, but what is happening inside your mind during this tiny window of time is a neurological revolution. To understand its power, you need to understand the 2 parts of your brain at war in these moments. First, you have the amygdala. Think of it as your brain's ancient, hypervigilant security guard. It's lightning fast, highly emotional, and its primary job is to detect threats and scream, danger. It's the part of you that feels that hot flash of anger, that jolt of anxiety, that gut punch of shame. It's what makes you want to immediately lash out, defend yourself, or shrink away. Its motto is, react first, ask questions later. Then, you have the prefrontal cortex. This is the modern, sophisticated CEO of your brain. It's responsible for rational thought, long-term planning, and emotional regulation. It's the part that understands nuance, considers consequences, and aligns your actions with your goals. The CEO is wise, but there's a catch: it's slower. When a perceived threat comes in, the security guard, amygdala, is already at the scene, sirens blaring, before the CEO, prefrontal cortex, has even had time to review the security footage. The 3-second rule is a deliberately created time delay. It is the tactical pause that prevents your emotional security guard from making a rash decision. It buys just enough time for the wise CEO to get to the scene, assess the situation calmly, and take control. This is the biological mechanism behind the shift from reacting to responding. A reaction is primal, automatic, and emotional. A response is considered, intentional, and strategic. The person who reacts is a puppet on a string, controlled by anyone who knows how to push their buttons. The person who responds is in control of themselves, and therefore, in control of the situation. Let's imagine a real-world scenario. You're in a meeting and you've just finished presenting an idea you worked on for weeks. A senior colleague, who is known for being territorial, leans back in his chair and says with a smirk, "Well, that's certainly an ambitious idea. A little unrealistic, don't you think?" The air goes out of the room. Your face flushes. The amygdala screams, he's calling you stupid. He's trying to humiliate you. Fight back. List all the reasons he's wrong. Remind everyone about that time his project failed. That is the path of reaction. But instead, you deploy the 3-second rule. You look at him, your face neutral. You take a slow, silent breath in. 1, 2, 3. In that sacred pause, your prefrontal cortex arrives. It analyzes the situation. He wants a reaction. He wants to make you look emotional and unprofessional. Arguing will only make you look defensive and weak. What is the most powerful move here? And after that pause, you respond. Not with anger, but with calm, unshakable poise. You might say, "I appreciate that perspective. What specific parts of it seem unrealistic to you?" You haven't attacked. You haven't defended. You have calmly flipped the spotlight back onto him, forcing him to move from a vague, dismissive insult to a specific, logical critique. 9 times out of 10, people like that don't have one. They were just looking for an emotional fight, and you refused to give it to them. You have not only kept your dignity, you have elevated your status in the room. You have demonstrated that you are not easily rattled. That is power. To build this muscle, start small. Practice this pause in low-stakes situations. When the phone rings, let it ring one extra time before you answer. Pause for 3 seconds. When you get a text, wait 3 seconds before you even open it. Before you take your first sip of coffee in the morning, hold the warm cup in your hands and just breathe for 3 seconds. You are conditioning your nervous system to accept a pause as a normal part of your process. You are training the hot-headed security guard to wait for the CEO. This small habit, practiced daily, will become an unbreakable shield in the moments that matter most. It is the space in which you transform from a victim of disrespect into an architect of your own response. 4. Anchor your gaze. You've created a space of calm with your 3-second pause. You have prevented the emotional hijack. Now, what do you do in that space? How do you communicate strength without saying a single word? This leads us directly to our 4th shift, a nonverbal technique so powerful it can change the entire dynamic of a room before you even open your mouth. This is the practice of anchoring your gaze. I'm not talking about an aggressive, intimidating staring contest. That's the behavior of a bully, rooted in insecurity. I'm talking about the calm, steady, and unwavering eye contact of a person who is comfortable in their own skin and confident in their own truth. In a world of distractions where everyone is constantly glancing at their phones, their watches, or looking over your shoulder for someone more important to talk to, the simple act of offering someone your undivided, grounded attention has become a rare and profound form of power. Let's revisit a crucial piece of psychological research we touched on earlier. In the 1960s, Professor Albert Mehrabian conducted landmark studies on communication, and his findings are more relevant today than ever. He concluded that in face-to-face conversations where feelings and attitudes are being expressed, our message is conveyed through 3 channels. 55% of the meaning is derived from our body language, our posture, gestures, and, most critically, our facial expressions and eyes. 38% comes from our tone of voice. And only a mere 7% comes from the actual words we speak. Think about that. Over half of your perceived authority, confidence, and sincerity is transmitted through your physical presence, and your eyes are the focal point of that presence. When you drop your gaze, shift your eyes nervously, or refuse to meet someone's look, you are non-verbally communicating uncertainty, submission, or even dishonesty, no matter how powerful your words are. You are sending a 55% signal that you don't fully believe in the 7% you are saying. Anchoring your gaze is how you align your message, ensuring your physical presence declares the same confidence as your words. So what does anchored look like in practice? It's not a constant, unblinking stare. It's a relaxed, focused connection. When you are speaking, you hold the other person's gaze calmly, as if to say, I am here with you, and I believe in what I am saying. When you are listening, you hold their gaze to communicate, I see you. I hear you. You have my full attention. It is one of the most fundamental signs of respect you can give another human being, and in turn, it makes them respect you. It conveys a quiet authority that makes people instinctively take you more seriously. They feel your presence. The application of this technique should be nuanced, tailored to the situation. In a professional or confrontational setting, your anchored gaze is your shield and your quiet declaration of self-worth. Imagine you are in that salary negotiation. You've stated the number you want. The other person gives you a list of reasons why it's not possible. The old you might have looked down at your hands, at your notes, anywhere but at them, signaling that you were already preparing to fold. The new you holds a calm, respectful, and steady gaze. You listen to everything they have to say, your eyes never leaving theirs. Your stillness and your anchored gaze are saying more than words ever could, I have heard your points, but my position has not changed. I am not intimidated. I know my value. In a personal or vulnerable context, the anchor is softer. It's about connection, not control. When your partner or child is sharing something difficult with you, you put your phone down, turn to face them, and offer them a gentle, anchored gaze. You are not just hearing their words, you are witnessing their experience. You are creating a sanctuary of psychological safety. You are telling them, what you are saying matters more than anything else in the world right now. This kind of listening builds unbreakable bonds of trust and, yes, respect. Begin practicing today. When you order your coffee, hold the barista's gaze for a second longer and say thank you. When you're talking with a loved one, consciously resist the urge to glance at the television or your phone. In your next meeting, practice holding eye contact as you listen, showing you are engaged. You will be amazed at how this one small shift changes the way people respond to you. They will feel more heard, they will see you as more confident, and they will treat you with a level of reverence you didn't have to ask for. Your eyes are the windows to your soul, it's true. But when anchored, they are also the silent guardians of your respect. 5. The art of stillness. You have anchored your gaze, creating a powerful channel of nonverbal communication. Now we must expand that anchor from your eyes to your entire body. If your eyes are the guardians of your respect, your body is the fortress that houses it. This brings us to our 5th shift, a practice that feels counterintuitive in our culture of constant motion, but is one of the most visible indicators of inner authority, the art of stillness. Think about the last time you felt truly nervous. Maybe it was before a job interview, a difficult conversation, or a first date. What did your body do? Chances are, you were a symphony of nervous energy. You jiggled your leg. You tapped your fingers on the table. You shifted your weight from foot to foot. You ran a hand through your hair or adjusted your collar. These are not random movements. These are physical manifestations of a mind in turmoil. They are subconscious signals, broadcast to everyone around you, that say, I am uncomfortable. I am anxious. I am not in control of this situation. Even if you are saying all the right words, your body is telling a different, more honest story. And as we've learned, people believe the story your body tells long before they believe your words. Now, picture a person of immense, quiet authority. It could be a powerful CEO you've seen in an interview, a wise grandparent, or a character in a film. When they enter a room or sit at a table, what do you notice? It is their profound stillness. Their movements are minimal, deliberate, and purposeful. When they sit, they are planted, grounded. Their hands rest calmly in their lap or on the table. They don't fidget or twitch. This physical composure creates an aura of unshakable presence. It communicates, without a single word, that they are completely at ease, even in a high-pressure environment. Their inner state is not dictated by the chaos around them, instead, their inner calm begins to dictate the energy of the room. This is a subtle but powerful neurological phenomenon. The human nervous system is designed to co-regulate. We unconsciously mirror the energy of those around us. When you are in the presence of a fidgety, anxious person, you start to feel on edge. But when you are in the presence of someone who is deeply, powerfully still, your own nervous system begins to calm down in response. You feel compelled to be more thoughtful, to speak more deliberately. You are attuning to their frequency, not the other way around. Let's apply this to a difficult conversation. Imagine you are confronting a family member about a repeated boundary violation. As you begin to speak, they become defensive. Their voice gets louder. They start making gestures of exasperation. The old you would have mirrored this energy. You would have gotten agitated, your voice would have risen, your body would have tensed up, and the conversation would have escalated into a useless shouting match. But the new you practices the art of stillness. As their energy rises, yours becomes more grounded. You plant both feet firmly on the floor. You let your hands rest calmly on your thighs. You maintain your anchored gaze. You become the quiet, unmovable center of the storm. Your stillness is not passive, it is an active, powerful choice. It communicates, your chaos will not become my chaos. Your lack of control will not make me lose mine. This refusal to engage in the drama starves it of the energy it needs to survive. The other person, faced with your immovable calm, is often forced to de-escalate. They have no choice but to deal with the substance of your words because you have refused to get lost in the storm of their emotions. Cultivating this stillness is a practice. First, simply bring awareness to your own habits. Throughout the day, notice your tells. Are you a leg jiggler? A pen clicker? A face toucher? Don't judge it, just notice it. Awareness is the first step to control. Second, practice grounding yourself physically. Whenever you are sitting, consciously feel the weight of your body in the chair. Plant both of your feet flat on the floor. Feel the solidness of the ground beneath you. This simple physical act sends a signal to your nervous system that you are safe and supported. Third, give your hands a job. If you don't know what to do with them, they will find something nervous to do on their own. Instead, make a conscious choice. You can rest them gently in your lap, one on top of the other. You can place them flat on the table in front of you. Or you can steeple your fingers, a classic gesture of thoughtful authority. The choice itself is what matters. You are moving from unconscious fidgeting to conscious composure. Stillness is the physical language of self-mastery. It is the silent declaration that you are the eye of the hurricane, calm, centered, and in control, no matter how fiercely the winds of circumstance may blow. It is the ultimate display of a mind at peace with itself, and there is nothing in the world that commands more quiet, instinctive respect. 6. Weaponize your silence. You have stilled your body, becoming an unmovable fortress of calm. Now, we will hone the most powerful weapon in your nonverbal arsenal. It is the one thing people are most afraid of in conversation, the one thing that can shatter arrogance, expose manipulation, and command more authority than 1,000 shouted words. This is our 6th and perhaps most formidable shift. You must learn to weaponize your silence. Let's be very clear. This is not the passive, fearful silence we discussed at the beginning, the silence of someone who is afraid to speak up. Nor is this the petty, childish, silent treatment, which is a manipulative tool used to punish others. This is something else entirely. This is strategic silence. It is an active, deliberate, and tactical deployment of quiet. It's the difference between an empty stage and a stage where the curtain is held down for a moment of unbearable tension before the main actor appears. One is absence, the other is presence in its most potent form. When you are in a confrontation, the other person's brain is primed for a specific rhythm, a predictable dance of call and response. They speak, you speak. They attack, you defend. They escalate, you escalate. Your reaction is the fuel their brain expects and needs to continue the conflict. Strategic silence is the act of suddenly and completely cutting off that fuel supply. You create a vacuum, a void in the natural rhythm of the conversation. And human psychology abhors a vacuum. The other person, left hanging in that unexpected void, becomes profoundly uncomfortable. Their brain scrambles. Why aren't they responding? Did I go too far? Are they angry? What are they thinking? In the absence of your words, they are forced to listen to the echo of their own. They are left alone on stage with the ugliness or absurdity of what they just said, and that is a far more effective judge than you could ever be. Let's take a business negotiation. You've been going back and forth for an hour with a client over the price of a major project. They are experienced and tough. Finally, the client leans forward, slams his hand lightly on the table and says, "Look, my absolute final offer is $90,000. Take it or leave it. I can't do a penny more." It's a classic power play, designed to make you panic and accept a lowball offer. The old you, driven by scarcity and fear, would have started talking immediately. You'd defend your price, you'd nervously explain your costs, you'd start negotiating against yourself. But instead, you deploy strategic silence. You hear his offer. You look him directly in the eye, your gaze anchored, your body still. And you say nothing. For 1 second. 2 seconds. 4. 5. 6 seconds. In the world of conversation, 6 seconds is an eternity. It is excruciatingly uncomfortable. You can almost see the gears turning in his head. His confident posture starts to deflate. He starts to second-guess himself. Did I offend him? Was that too aggressive? Maybe his costs really are higher. He looks so calm, he must have other options. Finally, he breaks the silence. He clears his throat and says, "Look, maybe I could talk to my CFO, maybe we could get it to 95, but that is absolutely it." In that moment of silence, you just made your company $5,000 without saying a single word. You didn't argue, you created a space where he argued with himself and lost. This works just as powerfully in personal conflicts. Imagine a family member who loves to use passive-aggressive digs to manipulate you. At a family gathering, they say, loud enough for others to hear, "It must be nice to have a job that lets you take so much time off, unlike the rest of us." The bait is thrown. They want you to get defensive, to list your accomplishments, to justify your work-life balance. They want a fight. Instead, silence. You stop what you are doing. You turn your head slowly and look at them. Your face is not angry, just neutral. You hold their gaze. You let their words hang in the air, naked and exposed for everyone to see their bitter intent. You let the awkwardness swell. You don't rescue them from it. You don't rescue the other people in the room from it. You are holding up a mirror, and you are forcing them, and everyone else, to look at the reflection. After a few seconds of this deafening quiet, you simply turn away and resume your previous conversation, as if their comment was so irrelevant it didn't even warrant a verbal response. You have not only dodged their attack, you have dismantled their weapon. You've shown them that their barbs have no effect on you, and a weapon that has no effect is quickly discarded. To practice this, start by becoming a connoisseur of quiet. Notice the silences in films, in music, in speeches. Understand how they build tension and create meaning. In your own conversations, don't be so quick to fill every lull. When someone finishes speaking, let their words breathe for a moment before you jump in. You will be seen as a more thoughtful, more attentive listener. And when the moment comes to use silence as a tool, embrace the discomfort. See it not as awkwardness, but as the shifting of power in your favor. Weaponizing your silence isn't about being cold or unfeeling. It's about being so rooted in your own self-worth that you no longer feel the need to fill every space with noise to prove you belong there. Your silence becomes your statement. And it is often the most eloquent, and most intimidating, statement you can possibly make. 7. That no. Period. We have explored the immense power of what you don't say, the power of your gaze, your stillness, and your strategic silence. Now it is time to turn our attention to the words we do speak. But we're not going to add more words. We are going to distill our language down to its most potent, boundary-defining essence. This brings us to our 7th shift, and it revolves around mastering the single most powerful and liberating word in the vocabulary of self-respect, the no. Period. For the chronic people-pleaser, the word no feels like a grenade. We imagine it exploding in our hands, causing irreparable damage to our relationships and our reputation. We see it as an act of aggression, of selfishness, of rejection. So we avoid it at all costs. We wrap our refusal in layers of apologies, justifications, and vague excuses until the no itself is completely suffocated. We say, "Oh, I don't think I can, I'm so sorry, I have this other thing, and it's just a really busy week." We say, "Let me check my calendar and get back to you," with no intention of ever getting back to them. We offer a long, rambling story about why we can't, hoping the other person will take the hint and let us off the hook. But what message does this actually send? When you give a long, elaborate excuse, you are subconsciously signaling that the other person has a right to audit your reasons. You are inviting them to find flaws in your logic. "Oh, if your other thing is on Tuesday, you can still help me on Wednesday, right?" When you say, "I don't think I can," you are communicating uncertainty, leaving the door open for them to persuade you. You are turning your firm boundary into a negotiation. These soft no's don't protect the relationship, they erode your credibility and invite people to push harder next time, because you've taught them that your no is flimsy and can be dismantled with enough pressure. A powerful no is an act of clarity and, paradoxically, an act of respect. It respects the other person enough to give them a straight answer, and it respects yourself enough to honor your own limits. The anatomy of a powerful no is beautifully simple. It is clear, it is concise, and it is delivered calmly, without a trace of anger or apology. It is a complete sentence. It is a closed door, not one left slightly ajar. To help you master this, let's create a menu of no's you can use in different situations. Think of these as pre-approved scripts your brain can access when you feel put on the spot. First, the simple no. For straightforward, low-context requests. "Can you work late tonight?" "No, I can't." "Can I borrow your car?" "No, I'm not able to do that." Notice the lack of apology. You are not sorry for having a boundary. Second, the gracious no. This is for when you want to acknowledge the person kindly but still hold your ground. A friend asks you to help them move on your only free weekend. I appreciate you thinking of me and asking, but I won't be able to make it. You've been gracious, but the answer is final. Third, it doesn't work for me, no. This is a wonderfully elegant and unarguable phrase. A colleague tries to dump a last-minute task on you. Can you get this report done by 5? You respond, no, that timeline doesn't work for me. The reason it doesn't work is irrelevant. Whether you have another commitment or you simply plan to protect your peace is your business, and your business alone. And fourth, the principled no. This is for repeated requests that violate a core boundary. A family member constantly asks to borrow money. I have a personal policy of not lending money to friends or family. It's important for me to keep those relationships clear. This takes the decision out of the immediate moment and places it within a larger, impersonal principle, making it much harder to argue against. Let's tell a quick story. Consider a woman named Carol, a classic people-pleaser in her 40s. Her family called her Dependable Carol. Her boss called her his go-to. The result? She was exhausted, resentful, and her own dreams were collecting dust. One day, after reading about boundaries, she decided to try. Her sister called, asking her to watch her kids at the last minute. Carol's heart pounded. She wanted to give her usual, "Oh, I think I have plans, let me see." Instead, she took a breath and said, "I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me today." There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. Her sister, not used to this, sputtered, "But why?" Carol's old instincts screamed at her to invent an excuse. But she held firm. "I'm just not available." It was uncomfortable. It felt selfish. But a week later, her sister called again. This time she asked, "I know you're busy, but I was wondering if you might be free to watch the kids next Saturday." The entire dynamic had shifted. Her sister was now asking for her time instead of assuming it. By saying one firm no, Carol had taught her sister the value of her yes. Every time you say no to something that drains your spirit or violates your boundaries, you are saying a profound and holy yes to yourself. You are saying yes to your own priorities. Yes to your own peace of mind. Yes to your own life. It is not an act of rejection. It is the ultimate act of self-allegiance. 8. Acknowledge, don't absorb. You have mastered the art of the firm no, creating a powerful shield to protect your time and energy. But what about those situations where a simple no doesn't quite fit? What do you do with unsolicited advice from a well-meaning relative, unfair criticism from a boss, or a passive-aggressive complaint from a friend? In these moments, you need a more nuanced tool, a form of psychological martial arts. This brings us to our 8th shift, a high-level communication strategy one call, acknowledge, don't absorb. This is the art of hearing what people say without letting it penetrate your sense of self-worth. It's the ability to stand calmly in a hailstorm of opinions and judgments, letting them clatter harmlessly off your shield without leaving a single dent. Our natural, deeply ingrained human instinct when faced with criticism is to become defensive. It's an ego-driven response. Someone says, "You're always late," and you immediately want to list the 10 times you were early. Someone says, "That project wasn't your best work," and you feel an overwhelming urge to justify every decision you made. But what does this defensiveness communicate? It communicates that you have been hit. It signals that their words have found a target and that you believe their criticism holds enough legitimacy that it must be fought off. In essence, by arguing, you are validating their attack. You are agreeing to step into their frame and play their game, a game where you are perpetually on the back foot, trying to prove your worth. Acknowledge, don't absorb, is a complete reversal of this dynamic. The technique is to verbally acknowledge that you have heard the other person's words or feelings, which satisfies their need to be heard, but you do so without agreeing with the content of their statement or internalizing it as your truth. You are essentially saying, "I recognize that those words came out of your mouth, but I do not accept them as my reality. It is a subtle but profound way of maintaining your status and your inner peace. Let's arm you with some precise phrases you can use. These are your verbal shields. First, the simplest, I hear what you're saying. These 5 words are magical. You are not saying, I agree. You are not saying, you're right. You are simply confirming that sound waves have traveled from their mouth to your ears. It is a neutral, factual statement that completely de-escalates conflict. Second, the polite deflector, thank you for sharing that with me, or I appreciate you sharing your perspective. This is particularly useful for unsolicited advice. It's polite, it's respectful, but it also creates a subtle distance. You are treating their opinion as a piece of data they have offered, not a command you must follow. Third, and perhaps the most powerful, I can see why you would feel that way, or I understand that's how you see it. This is the master level. You are validating their feeling or their perception without validating the objective truth of their statement. You are acknowledging their subjective reality while remaining firmly planted in your own. There is nothing for them to argue with because you have just agreed that they feel how they feel. Let's see this in action. Imagine you're at a family gathering and your aunt says, you know, you seem really stressed lately. You should really take better care of yourself. You look tired. The old you might have felt a flash of anger and embarrassment, and started listing all the reasons you're so busy, defending your life choices. The new you, using this technique, simply pauses, makes eye contact, and says with a calm smile, I appreciate your concern, Auntie. That's it. You acknowledged her stated intent, concern, without absorbing the unstated criticism, you look bad. What can she possibly say to that? You have taken the sting completely out of her words. You haven't started a fight. You have simply refused to absorb the negativity. The conversation moves on, and you remain untouched, your dignity fully intact. This technique is your filtration system for the world's negativity. It allows you to engage with people respectfully while maintaining an invisible, impenetrable shield around your self-worth. You are no longer a sponge, absorbing every opinion and emotion directed at you. You become a calm observer, capable of acknowledging the weather, the storms of other people's judgments, anxieties, and opinions, without becoming the storm yourself. This is not just a communication tactic, it is a spiritual practice. It is the practice of knowing where you end and where someone else begins. And that knowledge is the very definition of a powerful, unshakable boundary. 9. Relocate the arena. You now possess the verbal shields to deflect personal attacks. But some aggressors are more strategic. They understand that a one-on-one confrontation is a fair fight. They don't want a fair fight. They want an ambush. They will choose to challenge, criticize, or humiliate you not in private, but in public, in a team meeting, at a family dinner table, or in front of a group of friends. They do this for one simple reason: they need an audience. The audience is their weapon. Your potential humiliation in front of that audience is their objective. This is where you must learn our 9th shift, a brilliant tactical maneuver that instantly disarms the public aggressor: relocate the arena. This is the conscious refusal to fight on the battlefield your opponent has chosen. You do not engage. You do not defend. You simply invalidate the chosen location and, in doing so, neutralize their entire strategy. Understand the psychology at play. The public aggressor is often a performer. Their attack is a piece of theater, and they have cast you as the villain or the fool. The audience, your colleagues, your family, your friends, are not just spectators, they are a source of power. The attacker is banking on the fact that social pressure will force you to react. They know you'll feel compelled to defend your reputation, to correct the record, to not lose face. They predict you will get flustered, emotional, or angry, thereby proving their unspoken point that you are unstable or incompetent. When you get drawn into this public drama, you have already lost, even if you win the argument. You've allowed them to set the stage, write the script, and turn your colleagues or loved ones into unwilling participants in your degradation. Relocating the arena is your declaration that you will not be a character in their play. It is a calm, firm statement that you, and only you, will decide the time and place for important conversations. The power of this move lies in its unimpeachable reasonableness. You are not refusing to discuss the issue, you are simply refusing to discuss it here and now. By doing so, you reframe yourself as the calm, rational, and professional one, while casting the aggressor as emotionally impulsive and inappropriate. Let's arm you with the language. Memorize these phrases. They are your escape hatches from any public ambush. I'm not going to have this conversation right here. It's simple, direct, and non-negotiable. This doesn't seem like the appropriate place for this discussion. This subtly critiques their choice of venue, highlighting their lack of judgment. I can see this is important to you, so let's schedule a time to talk about it privately. This is the masterstroke. It's gracious, it validates their supposed concern, but it firmly seizes control of the when and where. Imagine this scenario. You are in a weekly team meeting. Your boss is there. A colleague, let's call him Kevin, feels threatened by your recent success. The moment you finish your update, he interjects, "Well, that's all fine in theory, but some of us are concerned that you've been dropping the ball on the client response side of things while you focus on these pet projects." It's a direct shot, designed to undermine you in front of your boss. The room goes quiet. Everyone looks at you. Your heart starts to pound. The old you would have immediately jumped to your own defense, "That's not true. I answered all my client emails. Let me show you the logs." You would have been pulled right into his trap. Instead, you deploy Shift 9. You pause. You turn your head slowly to look at Kevin, your gaze anchored, your body still. You let the silence hang for a moment. Then you say, calmly and clearly, for everyone to hear, "I appreciate you bringing up your concerns, Kevin. The team meeting probably isn't the best forum to get into the details, but I'd be happy to sit down with you and my client logs after this to clear up any misunderstanding." And then, you turn your gaze back to your boss and say, "Now, regarding the next action item. Look at what you just did. You completely dismantled his attack. You refused to get emotional. You showed confidence by not needing to immediately defend yourself. You highlighted his unprofessionalism by pointing out that this wasn't the right forum. You took control by proposing a private meeting, a meeting he almost certainly does not want because his goal wasn't to solve a problem but to create a public drama. And finally, you demonstrated your focus and leadership by immediately steering the conversation back to the official agenda. You have not just saved face, you have elevated your status. You have shown everyone in the room who the adult is. You are never obligated to perform in someone else's circus. By relocating the arena, you are reminding them, and yourself, that your dignity is not a public spectacle. You are the master of your own stage, and you will only engage when and where it serves your purpose, your peace, and your professional integrity. 10. The dignified exit. We have now covered 9 powerful shifts, from the internal work of your mindset to the external tactics of your words and actions. But there will be times in your life when you encounter a person or a situation so resistant to change, so committed to disrespect, that no tactic will be effective. You can anchor your gaze, you can weaponize your silence, you can say, "No," with the clarity of a diamond, and they will still refuse to honor your humanity. When you have given someone a chance to meet you at your new standard and they have repeatedly failed, you have one final, ultimate move left in your playbook. This is our 10th shift, the graduation ceremony of self-respect, the dignified exit. This is the recognition that sometimes, the only way to win a toxic game is to refuse to play. It is the act of walking away, not in a storm of anger, but in a quiet cloud of self-worth. Let's first dismantle a deeply ingrained, toxic belief we've been fed our whole lives, that quitters never win. This has made us terrified of walking away. We see it as a failure, a sign of weakness. But you must learn to distinguish between quitting on a dream and exiting a nightmare. Quitting is giving up on yourself. A dignified exit is the ultimate act of choosing yourself when a situation has proven to be unsalvageable. It is not an admission of defeat, it is a declaration of sovereignty over your own life and your own peace. It is the understanding that your energy is your most precious, non-renewable resource, and you will no longer offer it to those who only seek to contaminate or consume it. So, how do you know when it's time? How do you know you've reached the point of no return? Here are the signs. An exit is warranted when the disrespect is not a rare mistake, but a consistent, predictable pattern of behavior. It's warranted when you have calmly and clearly tried to set boundaries, using the shifts we've discussed, and those boundaries have been ignored, mocked, or met with gaslighting. It's warranted when a relationship, be it with a friend, a family member, or even a job, consistently drains more from your spirit than it deposits. And finally, an exit is necessary when staying would require you to betray a core value or shrink yourself down into a version of you that you no longer recognize or respect. When you withdraw, you are teaching the final lesson, the only one some people are capable of learning, the lesson of your absence. When someone has proven that they are incapable of valuing your presence, your absence becomes the only consequence they can feel. The space you once filled with your warmth, your energy, your support, your laughter, that space becomes a cold, silent void. And in that void, they are finally forced to confront the true value of what they have lost. Your absence becomes a mirror reflecting their own behavior back at them, and for a toxic person, there is no more terrifying reflection. Let's tell the story of a man named Michael. For 20 years, he had a best friend, Tom. Tom was charismatic and fun, but he had a cruel streak. He would make jokes at Michael's expense in public, forget his wallet whenever they went out, and dominate every conversation with his own dramas, never once asking Michael about his life. For years, Michael tolerated it, telling himself that's just how Tom is. He tried setting boundaries. He tried talking to him about it. Each attempt was met with laughter or accusations that Michael was being too sensitive. Finally, Michael's father passed away. He called Tom, desperate for a friend. Tom listened for 5 minutes, then said, "Wow, that's rough, man. Hey, can I call you back? The game is on." That was it. The final straw. There was no dramatic confrontation. Michael didn't scream or yell. He just stopped. He stopped answering the texts. He stopped accepting the invitations. He went completely, quietly dark. The first few weeks were torture. Michael was racked with guilt. He missed the good times. Then, Tom's panicked and angry messages started. "What is wrong with you? After all I've done for you." Michael simply deleted them. And then, a strange thing happened. A profound sense of peace began to settle over him. His weekends were his own. His confidence grew. He had more energy for his family, for his hobbies. He realized that for 20 years, he had been carrying the dead weight of a one-sided friendship. Walking away was the heaviest thing he ever had to do, but in doing so, he finally set himself free. A dignified exit often requires no explanation. The explanation lies in the 1,000 cuts that came before it. An explanation is a gift you give to someone who is willing to listen and capable of change. The person you are exiting has, by definition, proven they are neither. So you walk away quietly. You unfollow them. You delete their number. You don't make a big announcement. You simply close the door with a quiet, final click, and you lock it. This isn't an act of cruelty. It is the ultimate act of kindness to yourself. It is the moment you stop hoping they will change and start creating a life filled with people who don't require you to constantly negotiate for your own dignity. It is the final, beautiful, and silent roar of your self-respect. We have traveled a long road together today, through 10 fundamental shifts in how you carry yourself in the world. We started with the quiet, internal work of auditing your own soul, of understanding the high cost of being too nice. We armed you with the practical, in-the-moment tools of the 3-second pause, the anchored gaze, and the art of stillness. We gave you the words, and the silences, to hold your boundaries, to say no with grace, to deflect criticism, and to control the arenas of your life. And finally, we acknowledge the ultimate act of self-preservation, the dignified exit. These 10 shifts are not a collection of clever communication tricks. They are a holistic system for aligning your external actions with a newfound internal reality. That reality is this: your self-worth is non-negotiable. It is not granted to you by a boss, a partner, or a friend. It is not something you earn by pleasing everyone. It is your birthright. These shifts are simply the practice of living like you believe that to be true. It is the decision to stop broadcasting uncertainty and fear, and to start broadcasting quiet, unshakable self-respect. Remember where we started. You don't lose respect when others disrespect you. You lose it when you tolerate it. You are now equipped with a complete blueprint for how to stop tolerating it, not through anger or aggression, but through a profound and powerful dignity. You don't get respect by demanding it loudly, you command it quietly. You don't get it by explaining why you deserve it, you get it by becoming the kind of person who would never accept anything less. From this day forward, stop chasing respect. Stop trying to convince anyone to treat you right. Instead, focus only on this: walk, speak, listen, and act like a person who deeply and truly respects themselves. Walk with poise. Speak with intention. Hold your ground without apology. Let your calm presence and your firm boundaries do all the talking for you. Become so rooted in your own value that the disrespect of others becomes like a foreign language you no longer understand. It simply doesn't register, because you've chosen to live on a higher frequency. If this message hit home, don't just listen to it. Live it. Tap subscribe, hit the bell, and share this with someone who needs to reclaim their power. Your silence is not weakness. It is your most powerful weapon. Use it with intention.